The barber industry is full of so many myths.
Oh, you have to have every clipper zero gap. You have to put in a harsh guideline. Don't put in harsh guidelines because they'll be hard to remove. Clipper over comb makes your cut choppy. You gotta drop it in the back.
There's a follicle of truth to some of these, but when we hear them all at the same time, most of it is just a bunch of trash. There's different things you're going to do for different clients, and this client has a pretty unique situation. As you can see, his hair is nearly close to black. It's probably like a level 2, and his skin is incredibly white, which means there's going to be a significant amount of contrast that we can create when we do this right. But also, just like Asian hair, it's going to show every single mistake that we make. So you guys are used to seeing the 6-phase process. I'm gonna flip it, twist it, chop it, and screw it a little bit. And I'm gonna show you guys how to downfade in this situation, and I would recommend that you do it as well. In this case with this client, I've cut his hair so many times that this is absolutely the best, fastest, and easiest it ever comes out when I follow this particular process. And we're only really going to set one guideline that's a little bit short, and it's gonna be super, super easy to remove because we're going to be using our fade scale. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to debulk the top with the number 4. I'm leading the clipper with the comb. I'm helping that clipper so that it can feed in there better and I can cut all of that hair down. But I'm going to show you a little trick here. When you're done, spritz the top with a little bit of water and then recomb it, and a bunch of little hairs that were laying down previously are going to stake up. So many times when your clients go home, wash their hair, and look in the mirror, they're gonna wind up seeing a bunch of little hairs sticking up. So the least we could do is make sure that doesn't happen. On our fade scale, it's usually predicated from a number 2 all the way down to skin. So we're actually going to take our number 2, we're gonna go around the back and sides of the head, cresting just above the parietal ridge, flicking up and off, but mainly we're letting our eyes guide us, and the goal here is to try to build a good connection from that number 4 into the sides and see what that starts to look like. Now he has a couple of different colics, so we're gonna have to kind of move the clipper in a couple different directions, and that might mean that we might need to take a guard higher than this. So what on the fade scale can we take into a number 2 without creating a line? Well, the answer is a number 1.5 in the open position. So if I push this clipper all the way down, I get it in the open position, and now I'm going to stay just under where I went with that number 2, and I'm going to clean all of that hair up. Huge tip here, even if I was going to put a harsh guideline in, a trimmer line, or anything like that, if I pre-cut this section to a 1.5 before I start blending, it's going to make the clipper have to work less hard. I'm going to be able to see my section better. I'm going to be able to flick better. I'm going to just have more control, and it's going to come out faster by doing that. We're going to come out really fast in this situation, but as you start to work on certain hair types, you'll start to learn some of this stuff. Some people will start doing their fade process with all of that hair on the head, and it's very difficult to see what you're doing. Now, the only real guideline we're gonna set in is this one now. We're gonna start with it in the fully open position, and we're gonna lift up and flick out as we get to the top of that section, exactly how we would do if we were doing it with a trimmer, or if you were gonna be a little more risky, you could put it in with a closed taper, which can also still make it a little difficult to remove. But putting it in with the taper in the open position is going to really give you a soft guideline that's going to be very, very easy to remove. Now, I'm not too worried about the hair on the bottom at this point. I am worried about making sure that this blend starts from the exact same spot, but I am worried about making sure, but I do want to make sure that this guideline is even all the way around the back and sides of the head. And no, we're not going to drop it in the back. This is a myth that we have to drop it in the back every time. We do that when clients have a big colic or we're trying to keep some weight in the back. We might do that for that situation, but when the client doesn't have that situation or we're cutting the hair close enough, we don't have to do that at all. So now is when we're actually going to start some of the first parts of our blend. We're going to start closing this clipper little by little, and we're going to stay under where we set that guideline, and eventually we're going to get this clipper fully closed, and we're going to remove any of the hair at the very bottom. Now, if we were using our fade scale, you would see that we're actually cutting this hair down in the closed position to 3 zeros. Can we run an electric shaver at 3 zeros? We definitely can, but we don't want to because it's going to be difficult to get it to blend. So there'll be a follow-up step to this, and that follow-up step means that we're gonna follow up underneath with our trimmer. So with our trimmer, we're gonna remove all that hair off of the back and sides on the bottom, and now we're gonna start to finesse these two lengths between the closed taper and the trimmer. And the trimmer that I chose to use was the Instinct trimmer, but I have the Instinct set back, so it's not cutting super, super close. So it probably is closer to like a 4-0, and that blends pretty seamless between my closed taper on my boosted up clipper. So this is one of those things you're gonna have to start to learn as you mess around here. You have your stuff set up correctly, it's going to make things very easy. Now I have another trimmer that you're gonna see enter in a few minutes that we're gonna use for another purpose, and that one is zero gapped. I think it's really important that we have at least two machines. The one machine is zero gap, the one machine is set back, one trimmer is set back, one trimmer is cutting close. So once I've managed to finesse all these lengths properly, I'm going to go in with my electric shaver. Now, this is the other part I gotta finesse. I gotta finesse my electric shaver to where I ended with my trimmer. So you're gonna see me tapping down, going with the grain, and I have a good amount of electric shaving to do, so I chose to use my Instinct shaver, which is extremely powerful. But towards the end of the haircut, you'll see me do a little bit more finesse work with my Uno single foil electric shaver. This is actually the Uno 2.0, and this is so small, it's a little bit easier for me to finesse those two lengths together. So I use that for blending as well as getting into those hard to reach spots. What the electric shaver is actually gonna do for us though, is it's going to create a lot more contrast. So now once I'm done with that electric shaver, I'm gonna go back with my zero gap trimmer and I'm gonna clean up anything that doesn't look right. The goal here is to go to our electric shaver, maybe pick up our clipper, do whatever you have to do to make sure that that hair is blending seamlessly from where you went with your electric shaver to your open taper step. So if that means you gotta jump back a little bit in some of the sections, go ahead. Grab a trimmer, do what you gotta do, and let's move on to the next step. The next step is gonna be the number one in the open position. So if we go back to our fade scale again, we went with the 1.5 open, 1.5 closed. What can we bring into that without creating an issue? The answer would be the number one in the open position. So with it in the open position to start with, and then we'll begin gradually closing it down as we feel like we need to, and we're paying close attention to the top, to the parietal ridge area there, making sure that we're getting a good seamless blend into that top. Now, as you do this, you're going to start to manipulate your clipper a little bit. You might tip it out. You might put only a corner down. You might be very light with your hand. You might try to push harder. All of these things are acceptable, but something I see a lot of newer barbers doing is they leave the head a little bit too much, and they don't understand that it can be used the same way you use an eraser with a pencil. So on the next step, we're gonna pick up our half guard and we're gonna do the same thing, but the only difference with the half guard is I'm gonna start with it 2 clicks open. And the reason for that is actually pretty simple. Because I'm manipulating my clipper, because I'm changing the lengths that it operates at, I would like to see what it's gonna do when it's 2 clicks open, and then I'm gonna open it all the way or close it as needed, and my blend is going to start to come together. The other thing you wanna pay attention to is the grain patterns. Some people, the grain kind of shoots forward, some of the grain shoots down, some of it even shoots backwards. So that's where isolating, one part of the blade or the other can be very helpful. And little by little, if you're paying attention to your mirror, you're going to start to get this all to come together. Now, as a beginner, I can understand how this would be difficult because you're thinking about the whole head. But if you think about this in just small sections, like, hey, right here, I'm trying to make this perfect. Now right here, I'm trying to make this perfect. Don't worry about the rest of the haircut. It will come together as you start to put your process together. But I know the beginners can get very overwhelmed, and a lot of times they're a little bit too afraid to push that a little bit higher than they think they need to, so they leave it really messy. Now, as I'm done with that step, with the half guard being in the open and the closed position, I might jump back a step, grab my open taper, and just finesse any other little details here. So as we start to do the exact same process on the other side, we do have that weird colic that he has that's very low actually on the side of his head. So that might mean when you have a colic like that, that might mean that you have to cut that area shorter, or you might have to do some trickery in there. And only cutting will really tell you what you need to do. And that's why lately I've been telling you guys, don't get so hung up on the process. The process is there to kind of give you like a guide, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot because there's gonna be certain situations where you're gonna have to go outside of your process, and this is definitely one of those situations. So drop it in the comments right here. Do you guys like to fade up or do you like to fade down? Just a quick curiosity I have. Which one do you guys feel is better and why? I would love to hear the answer to that. Now, one of the other really cool features with the boosted up clipper, I put on the Echo Crunch blade. It came with the fade blade, which was nice, but I really like to be able to hear what's being cut, especially when I'm doing something like this where I'm going into certain sections. I'm not sure if it's going to be the right fix. Hearing how much it's cutting, it really is a big advantage to me so that I can kind of get that section done and I don't see myself overworking. A lot of times when I'm watching these videos that I'm sitting here and I'm doing these voiceovers with you guys, I'm like, why am I on that section for so long? I've noticed, honestly, since I switched to the Echo Crunch blade, that I'm not really taking as long to cut the hair or get it the way I want it. So towards the end of this haircut here, the end of the blend, I should say, I'm just kind of going through, I'm looking for any imperfections, and now is my time to break some of the rules. Now I might jump back a step, I might jump outside of my process. I'm going to do what the hair needs. Some clients have a bunch of dips and lumps in their head, and everything is going to change what you might have to do in those situations. So the next step here, I'm going to do our edge up, and this normally would be considered phase 5. He has a really good, strong edge. I'm not going to push him back or really get into his hairline too much. My goal here is to just basically cut the bangs, that little bit that overhangs, and try to get it, as sharp and as square as I can. And one of the holds I like to do a lot of times, if this was a trimmer, I like to put it in my hand like a pencil grip. And I'll actually take my heel and my palm here and I'll just kind of brace it right on his nose or somewhere on his forehead. I'll take my fingertips, put them on the forehead. And that really helps me to stay nice and in control of what I'm doing. One of the things that sucks about filming is we always are kind of standing off to the side trying to give you guys that view. But normally I would be standing, directly in front of the client. So we're going to take care of his eyebrows too. I've actually found that if you put the number 1 in the open position, especially on anybody with any dark hair, you can usually knock down the eyebrows pretty effectively. You'll get rid of any of the long ones, and then we'll go back and we'll follow it up with our razor, and we're going to actually enhance this cut just a little bit because he actually has a really good and strong hairline. But of course, in our obsession for perfection, we're going to do that. We're also going to take the razor and we're going to line around his eyebrows just a little bit. I got to put my POV thing on so you guys can see the way I do the eyebrows. But there's a couple little tricks I use to do that. And we include that in our services at our barbershop. I'm not sure if you guys do, but I'm not going to let a client walk out with a unibrow. I don't have to. So we take care of that for the clients. And a lot of clients like him, they come every 2 weeks. So it's not really a big deal. Once we're done with that, we're going to make sure that we have the rest of the edge up just right. And don't forget, guys, you guys have a pair of shears. Using a pair of shears, like I'm using these Misaki shears, but using a pair of shears to help square off the 2 little corners, sometimes that's actually a little bit easier than trying to use your trimmers. It'll stop you from going too deep into the haircut, and you could just get the hair that hangs over. Once I'm done with that, I might go through, clean up anything with my texturizing shears or shear over comb or jump back a guard or just kind of see if there's anything else I need to finesse. And this is the time I set aside for myself at the end of the haircut. I call this phase 6. So in the phase 6 process, I can kind of go through, I can add enhancements, I can do the final details, and I can get everything to lay exactly the way I want it to. And I actually really love going back with the razor shortly after that. I spray the razor with a little bit of aftershave, and that really helps me get the color off of his skin where I don't want it and makes me keep it right where I do want it. And that's the cut, guys. I actually really enjoyed doing this haircut. I did not struggle whatsoever at any point in it. And I believe we got this entire haircut done in something like 25 minutes, and that's with me filming it. So I actually think I will probably be using this process more often on this particular client, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be perfect for everybody else. Once you learn a little bit more about hair textures, when you comb through the client for that first time, you start doing that client for the first time, a lot of times that first cut you do on a client is not gonna be your best because you don't know the hair yet. But as you start to make little reminders for yourself, you're like, oh, that worked out good, that didn't work out good, I'll do that next time. I actually just had that situation with my other client, Father Casey. I filmed his haircut, I actually have it, and I'm gonna release it to you guys, especially the members, but I didn't really like the way I did it in the very back. I should have brought the fade up a little higher. So he came yesterday, and I wish that was the one I filmed, but I'll show you guys that in another video. So what do you guys think? Is it up fading? Is it down fading? All the tools you guys see me use in this video will be linked down in the description. Appreciate you guys for being members. I appreciate you guys for coming here and rocking with the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out of here.